just outside Austin, on the edge of a county road where dry grass curled at the edges of parking lots. They rented a hall that smelled like plastic flowers and sweat. You know the kind, beige walls, ceiling tiles stained with time, a makeshift event center that tried hard to pretend it wasn't once a warehouse. Kate called it cute. She always lowered her standards when it came to appearances, but never when it came to me. It was Zach's baby shower. Correction, it was a performance. A parade of matching balloons and mason jars, every table with those cheap confetti centerpieces and hand-cut signs that read, "Oh baby," as if someone had put actual effort into this illusion. The rented speaker system crackled whenever anyone tapped the mic. No one cared. They were there for photos, likes, applause. Nobody looked too closely at what held the whole thing up. I knew the feeling. I had paid for half of it. Quietly, of course I had. It started like every other family event they threw, with expectations I was never allowed to acknowledge. Venmo requests from Kate. Subtle remarks about how Zach's real dad can't help much right now. No problem. I covered the cost of the venue deposit, the catering, the decorations. I even paid for the cake. 3 tiers, baby blue frosting, a plastic duck on top that the bakery swore was adorable. I didn't think so, but no one asked me. No one ever does. Kate didn't thank me. Not directly. She just smiled at her sister when the cake arrived and said, "He handled it," like I was a delivery guy. A wallet with shoes. I arrived late on purpose. Walked in while everyone was already seated. Plates full. I didn't want to make a scene, I just didn't want to be there. But Kate insisted. She said, "It's important for Zach to see you supporting him." Supporting. As if I hadn't already poured thousands into this boy's life. Insurance, rent, his car, his phone, even the damn gas he used to drive across town to see a girl I'd never met until today. And now she was pregnant. They made an announcement last fall, a clumsy, overshared Facebook post. A sonogram photo with caption, "Can't wait to meet baby V. #blessed #family first." They didn't tell me directly. Kate showed me on her phone, like it was news about a stranger. I remember sitting there in the kitchen, staring at the screen, watching her beam like this was the fulfillment of something. Not the beginning of another debt I'd be expected to pay. But I said nothing. I nodded. I said, "That's great, sweetheart," because I'd learned by then that in this house, silence was safer than truth. Now, at this hall, that silence was beginning to rot. They had pushed me to the edge of the gathering, not literally, but that's where I ended up. Back table. Folding chair. No name card. No one sat next to me. I ate off a paper plate with a bent plastic fork, watching the spectacle unfold in the center of the room. Watching Kate beam like this baby was some prize ribbon for good parenting. Zach was in his element. Center stage. His girlfriend, Sabrina, I think, smiled politely, clearly overwhelmed by the chaos around her. She was sweet, young. Her eyes darted to Zach often, and when they did, she looked relieved. Like he was the only anchor she had in the room. He wasn't. I had been paying his rent for the last 2 years. I'd co-signed his apartment, covered the utility setup, even helped him file taxes once when he couldn't figure it out. He hadn't thanked me then either. He just nodded and went out to meet his friends. Now he floated from table to table, shaking hands, taking gifts like they were owed to him. Half the guests were his fraternity buddies, people he hadn't seen since high school. Some girl with purple hair who kept shouting, "Uncle Zach!" like it was an inside joke I wasn't supposed to understand. Probably wasn't. The other half were Kate's family. Her sisters, her cousins, her aunt who always brought a tray of something terrible and gluten-free. I'd been to all their weddings, paid for some of their honeymoons. They nodded at me the way you acknowledge someone who once fixed your air conditioning. And then Zach stood up with a glass of cider. He tapped a spoon against the rim. The universal signal for, "Look at me." The room went quiet. All eyes on him. "I just want to say thanks," he began, swaying slightly like he was half-buzzed on the attention. "Thanks to everyone who showed up for us. This means the world." Applause. He gestured toward his girlfriend. "Sabrina's been amazing. She's strong and beautiful and somehow still likes me." Laughter. More clapping. Someone shouted, "She deserves a medal." Zach grinned. "And I want to thank my real supporters. The ones who've been here from day one. The ones who never pretended." A pause. And then his eyes landed on me. "And you know," he added, tilting his glass slightly in my direction, "some people just show up because they think money buys love, but they don't realize they've already ruined everything." Laughter. Real laughter this time. Nervous, thin, scattered, but real. Like the punchline hadn't landed, but no one wanted to be the only one not laughing. Kate didn't laugh, but she didn't speak either. She looked down at her lap like it was someone else's moment. And me? I sat still. I didn't blink. I let the words hit, because they weren't just words. They were the truth he'd carried in his gut for years. Spoken out loud now, dressed up as a joke, like it wasn't meant to cut. But it did. It always had. He didn't see me as family. He never had. I was the man who filled the gaps, covered the difference. The one who was useful, not loved. Necessary, but not welcome. I didn't speak. I didn't shout or throw my plate or walk out. I stood, walked toward the front table, past Kate, past her sisters, past the woman reapplying lipstick in the reflective glass of a chafing dish. I reached into my jacket pocket and pulled out the envelope. Plain white, no markings, no name. I placed it on the gift table, just beside a stack of newborn onesies and a jar labeled diaper raffle. Kate saw it. I know she did. Her hand flinched in her lap, and her mouth tightened. She knew what was inside. She knew because I had told her, quietly weeks ago in the kitchen. I told her that if Zach wanted to play games with bloodlines and loyalty, he should be prepared to meet his truths in full. Inside that envelope was one sheet of paper. DNA results. The kind that doesn't lie. Not mine. Not Zach's. Not even Kate's. It was about the baby. I hadn't gone looking for it. It had fallen into my hands by accident. A lab mix-up, a shared email account, a forgotten PDF on a sync device. I hadn't opened it out of spite. I opened it because curiosity is crueler than malice. And what I found changed everything. The man they thought had disappeared, the one Kate's family had pushed out years ago, he wasn't the father. They'd paid the wrong man to go away. And the right one was never told. I placed that envelope down as gently as you might set a gravestone. Then I turned and walked away. No raised voice. No accusations. Just a silence so thick you could feel it crawling up your spine. I felt every eye in the room shift toward me, then toward Kate, then toward the envelope like it might explode. But it didn't. Not yet. Truth is patient. It waits. And so did I. It was a strip mall sushi joint. Neon sign buzzing. Sticky menus. The kind of place you end up when nobody wants to cook, but everyone wants to pretend they're doing something special. Kate picked it, as always. Said it would be low-key, something nice before the baby shower. I knew better. She wanted us to play family in public. She wanted pictures for her phone, for her sister, for social proof. I parked in back, paid for Zach's valet because he never carried cash, and we were seated at a booth near the back. Kate slid in first. Zach sat across from her. I took the seat beside him. He didn't look at me. Not once. Not even a grunt of hello. The waitress came. Kate ordered for everyone. Like always. Miso. Spicy tuna. Some chef's roll she couldn't pronounce. I nodded without looking at the menu. It didn't matter. The food never did. Zach was wearing a new hoodie. Some brand with a French name he'd never be able to pronounce. The kind of thing that cost more than it should. I paid for it, probably. He scrolled his phone until the edamame arrived, then dropped it like it weighed something. "You know," he said, tossing a pod into his mouth, "my dad just got a condo downtown. Real place. Exposed brick. Rooftop access. He's engaged now. Young girl. Blonde." Kate smiled like that meant something. Like it reflected on her somehow. "That's great," she said. "Good for him." Zach nodded. "Took long enough, but he's finally doing things right." No one looked at me. That was the point. "He's inviting me next weekend," Zach added, "just to check the place out. Says he wants to show me what he's built." Real grown-up stuff. Legacy, you know? Kate tilted her head. That's nice of him. And then Zach turned to me for the first time all night. Not with warmth. Not with gratitude. Just cold clarity. The kind that comes from practice. From watching people flinch. You're just the stand-in, he said. A loser who pays for everything and keeps his mouth shut. Kate didn't move. I looked at her. Waiting. A word. A glance. Anything. Nothing. She dipped her chopsticks into soy sauce like it was another Tuesday. That's when something in me cracked. Not loud. Not violent. Just a hairline fracture in the part of me that kept pretending. I didn't say a word. I didn't throw my drink or storm out. I just reached for a napkin, wiped my mouth, and nodded. Right? I said. That was it. We finished the meal in silence. Zach talked about job prospects he didn't have. Kate asked questions like she cared. I paid the check. As we walked out, Zach patted my back like he'd scored points. Appreciate dinner, he said. Kate kissed my cheek. Don't be late for the shower next week. I got in my truck. Drove home. Didn't speak. That night, after Kate fell asleep beside me, I opened my drawer and pulled out the file. Bank statements. Credit card authorizations. Co-signed leases. Every bill I had been paying for Zach. The bills no one saw, the ones I wasn't supposed to mention because that's what family does. I laid them out across the dining table in perfect lines. The sum of my silence. I stared at them until dawn, and then I made a decision. That night, after the sushi bar, I sat in the dark dining room while Kate slept. I didn't turn on the lights. Didn't want to see her art on the walls or the table runner she bought last spring. I just wanted silence. The real kind. Not the silence of swallowing pride or being spoken over, but the silence where a man finally admits the truth to himself. I laid the papers out in rows. Zach's name appeared on every page, but never as the one responsible. Always the user, never the signer. It was my signature on his phone plan, my social on the apartment lease, my name on the auto insurance, my account on the Uber Eats subscription he used almost daily, streaming services, gym memberships, gas cards, credit cards, bills, stacked like sandbags around a flood no one else wanted to acknowledge. He was living a life I paid for and bragging about another man while doing it. I found a payment for a weekend trip he'd taken last fall. Colorado. Some cabin Airbnb. I remembered Kate telling me, "Let him go. He needs the experience." I had wired him the money from my business account because my personal one was already drained. Experience. I traced my finger down the bill. Airbnb. $932. Flights. $470. Meals. $210. Weed. Unlisted. But it showed up later in a Venmo to someone named Braden Fire. He never thanked me. I kept going. One credit card was maxed out with Zach's purchases. DoorDash. Amazon. Xbox Live. It had been opened under my name. Supposed to be for emergencies only. I don't remember authorizing a $179 gaming chair or a $300 hoodie that looked like it had been attacked by scissors. I highlighted those, not out of spite, out of clarity. At some point I realized my hands weren't shaking anymore. I had always told myself that patience was noble, that stepping in was love, that what I did behind the scenes didn't need to be seen to matter. But I had confused silence for virtue, and in that silence I had become invisible, to Zach, to Kate, maybe even to myself. By 2 a.m. I had a pile of printouts on the left side of the table, open accounts, active responsibilities. On the right, I started a new pile, closures. I made the first call just before dawn. Customer service reps don't ask many questions at that hour. I told them what I wanted. Cancel the autopay. Revoke the authorized user. Remove my name from the lease. Close the card. No drama. Just numbers one after another. Each one was a door closing. I logged into the phone account and shut down Zach's line. Kate's too. I didn't tell her. I figured if we were going to live like strangers, she could learn how to pay her own way like one. I didn't act out of anger. That's important. I wasn't fueled by rage or pride. I was fueled by math. You don't need to be angry to stop setting yourself on fire to keep others warm. At 6:30 a.m., Kate came downstairs in her robe. Her eyes were puffy. She stopped when she saw the papers, the empty coffee mug, the laptop still glowing. "What are you doing?" she asked. I looked up at her. "Taking inventory." "Of what?" "Everything I've built that no one respects." She didn't answer. She just stood there, arms crossed. Not in defense. In habit. I gestured to the files. "Do you know how many accounts are in my name? Do you even know what I've been paying for?" Her mouth opened. Closed. "Zach's rent," I said. "His car. His gas. His groceries. His phone. His internet. His Amazon Prime. His Uber. His nights out." Her voice was small. "He's still figuring things out." "No," I said. "He's not. He's figured it out just fine. He figured out that I'll keep paying as long as I don't complain. He figured out that you'll keep defending him as long as I stay the villain. He figured out that real dad means status, and stepdad means silent." Kate's eyes filled, but I didn't care. Not anymore. "I've been paying for a life that I'm not allowed to be part of." She sat down, across from me, her hands curled into fists. "What are you going to do?" she asked. "I already did it," I said. "I thought I had reached the end. I thought cutting off the money was the last move left to make. But silence has layers. You dig a little and sometimes it starts to rot. The truth doesn't just sit still, it seeps." After I shut it all down, the phone plan, the cards, the insurance, the lease, I expected rage. I expected Zach to come pounding on my door, shouting about rent, about tuition, about what I owed him. I expected Kate to cry, to play mediator, to say I'd gone too far. What I didn't expect was quiet. 3 days. Not a word. That's when I knew something wasn't right. Because when you flip the table and no one scrambles to catch the dishes, you realize they already knew it was fake. I started going through old bank statements again. Not the ones I'd already printed, older ones. Archive folders. Password-protected PDFs. The kind of files you don't look at unless something feels off. The kind of files you ignore when you're trying to believe the best in people. Zach's name appeared again and again. But now so did Kate's. Not just on bills. On transactions. Small ones, mostly. Transfers between her checking account and one of mine. Tags like Z Groceries or Cell Bill. Payments I don't remember approving. Then I found a joint card she had opened years ago, supposedly for household emergencies. It had Zach listed as an authorized user. I logged in. The purchases made my stomach turn. $820 at an electronics store in March. $312 on shoes. $95 at a vape shop. $1,125 on what looked like a weekend rental. The same weekend he claimed he was staying at a friend's to study. Kate never mentioned it. Never even hinted. I looked at the approval logs. Every charge had been greenlit by her. Every one. That's when I pulled her text history from the cloud backup. Not because I wanted to catch her in a lie. Because I needed to understand where the hell I had been all these years. I didn't have to scroll far. I found a message she sent Zach last fall. "Don't worry, John will cover it. He never pushes back." That was it. That was the whole playbook in one sentence. Don't ask him. Don't include him. Just assume he'll pay. Because he always does. Because silence looks a lot like consent if you squint hard enough. There were more messages. "He thinks it's just a loan. I told him the card was for groceries. Just act like it. He's not your father. Don't let him act like one." That last one, it broke something. Not because of what Zach had said, but because of who had said it. Kate, the woman I married. The woman I spent 10 years supporting. The woman who let me believe I was building something real. She wasn't silent. She was complicit. Zach had been cruel, yes. But cruelty from a boy is one thing. Betrayal from your wife is another. That comes with calculation. With premeditation. They had built a system. One paid in blind sacrifice. Mine. I confronted her that night. I didn't yell. I didn't wave the papers. I just sat at the table with the texts printed out. Highlighted. She walked in from the garage, keys in hand, humming to herself like the world hadn't shifted. "Sit down," I said. She paused, looked at my face, set the keys down without a word. I slid the pages across the table. She read, slowly, her face drained. Her hand went to her mouth. "Where did you—" "Don't," I said. "Don't insult me by pretending you don't know what this is." She looked down again. Her voice was small. "It wasn't like that." "No." I leaned forward. "You told him I'd cover it. You opened accounts behind my back. You gave him access. You kept me in the dark, and then watched me bleed for it." Tears welled up in her eyes. Reflex tears. Tears of being caught, not of regret. "I was trying to help him." "Help?" I spat. "Help is when you do something for someone else. What you did was hide what he was taking. You turned me into a bank and him into a ghost. And now you want sympathy?" She started to speak, but I cut her off. "You told him I wasn't his father," I said. "That he shouldn't treat me like one. You told him not to respect me, while cashing my paychecks." Her shoulders slumped. I pushed the chair back and stood. "I'm freezing my credit," I said. "I'm calling the banks in the morning. Every joint account gets shut down. Every card. Every link. I'm done." "Wait," she said. "We can talk about this. You're overreacting." I laughed. Cold. Dead. "Overreacting? You built a lie and called it love. You trained him to treat me like a stranger while you spent my name like loose change." She reached out, but I stepped back. "I won't pay for this anymore," I said. "Not with my money. Not with my silence. Not with my life." Then I walked upstairs. She didn't follow. And for the first time in years, I slept through the night. The silence didn't feel like peace anymore. It felt like something held underwater, face just beneath the surface, twitching. I moved through the house the next morning with the calm of someone who had stopped asking for approval. Not because he didn't want it anymore, but because he had finally accepted he would never get it. Kate didn't speak to me that day. She cooked breakfast for herself, made a show of clinking pans and shuffling plates. Like if she made enough noise it would drown out what she'd done. I didn't stop her. Let her rattle. Let her clink. I had my own noise to make. I spent the morning gathering proof. Receipts. Emails. Printed statements from the last 3 years. Bank authorizations. Every quiet decision I'd made in good faith, now weaponized against me in silence. I made copies of everything. Labeled folders. Cross-checked dates. I wanted it clean. I wanted it surgical. Not for revenge, for clarity. Because the only thing harder than being betrayed is realizing you helped write the script. There were emails from car dealerships. Approval letters from credit cards I never remembered opening. They used my name like a tool, like a crowbar to pry open comfort. Kate signed things electronically, little checkboxes she never mentioned at dinner. She kept me out of the loop and inside the payment cycle. Every month like clockwork. And I showed up. Every time. Not anymore. I called the credit bureaus. I froze my credit. Password protected everything. Filed fraud alerts where I needed to. Blocked access to my financials like I was under siege because I was not from strangers. From the people who hugged me goodnight. Then I printed the texts again. Not the full log, just 5 messages. The ones that mattered. I wanted them visible. Tangible. Proof that my silence had never been noble. It had been used. I laid everything out in the kitchen that evening. Kate came in from the backyard. She saw the folder first. Black. Thick. Labeled in my handwriting. Family accounts. She stopped in the doorway. "What is this?" I didn't look up. "Everything." She didn't move. "What does that mean?" "It means I've done the inventory. I've cleaned up the mess. I've shut it all down." Her mouth opened, but no sound came. "No more cards," I said. "No more autopay. No more cosigns. No more quiet favors." She stepped forward, slow. "You're serious. Dead serious." Her hand hovered over the folder. She didn't open it. Couldn't. "You're choosing yourself over us," she said. Finally, there it was. the sentence she'd been holding for years, like it was an accusation. Yes, I said. Finally, yes. Her eyes glassed over. After everything, I didn't blink. Everything you helped him take from me, everything you lied about, everything you expected me to swallow. I thought you loved us. I did, I said. But love doesn't mean being devoured. Love doesn't mean funding betrayal. She touched the folder, ran her fingers along the label. He's your stepson. No, I said. He's your son. And you taught him to treat me like I was disposable. That lesson landed. Kate stepped back like I'd struck her. But it wasn't violence. It was clarity. And clarity always hurts more than shouting. You're going to make him suffer. I stared at her. No, I'm just making him responsible. She tried one last angle. What about the baby? What about it? She swallowed. You'd let your grandchild go without? I leaned forward. He's not my grandchild. She froze. I held her gaze. Let the silence stretch. You knew that already, didn't you? I said. Tears welled, but she didn't deny it. Of course you did. I slid a second envelope across the table. Not as thick. Just one page. She didn't open it. She didn't need to. I mailed the other copy to Zach's girlfriend. I said. She deserves to know the truth. Unlike me. You didn't. I did. Her shoulders sagged. I stood. I've spent years covering for you, I said. Years. But you don't need me anymore. You've got your real family now. I walked past her, up the stairs, into the bedroom I no longer called ours. The house was still. But this silence wasn't compliance. It was consequence. At the baby shower, Zach tried to humiliate me again. Raised his voice, called me a leech, said I was trying to make the moment about myself. Everyone froze. I didn't argue. I walked to the table and tapped the envelope I'd placed a week earlier. Kate's sister picked it up, confused. I nodded once. Open it. Inside, DNA results. Proof the baby wasn't his. Kate had known. Zach's girlfriend had been seeing someone else. The wrong man had been pushed out, the lie funded with my credit. Gasps. A drink dropped. Silence. Zach's face drained. Kate couldn't even look at me. Her family erupted, questions, accusations, denial. I didn't stay. I had done what I came to do. The truth was on the table now, cold and final. Not mine to carry anymore. I stepped outside into the cool evening. No applause. No satisfaction. Just silence, honest, earned. My phone buzzed. Kate. I didn't answer. I'm not the backup. Not the funding source. Not the man who swallows betrayal anymore. I'm the man who left and didn't look back.